So I think you sent me this in text. 2014.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, 2014. I know we started chatting about your system, and at the last place at Notre Dame, we really felt it was valuable. With your product, and brought it to the table and implemented it there. And that was the first thing on my list when I got down here to LSU was let's implement EliteForm and go from there. And I know that amongst some other things that I had to do right away, and I'm still doing.
I'm sure that list was long.
Yeah, and it's not completed yet. But yeah, so continue the partnership, and we truly value what you bring. What your system, what EliteForm can do for us, and I mean we'll probably go in depth with what we do here, but yeah, it's been good, and I appreciate you letting me on and just really chatting for a little bit and see where this thing goes.
Yeah, I remember the behind the scenes is right. So I was at the NFL Combine, and I don't know if you or Coach Longo initially reached out, but it was our second year,
right?
And since I grew up in Indiana, of course I was jacked, all right. Notre Dame, and then get in there, set up the demo unit, but you were lifting a couple racks down, right?
And I probably had 2 kids at the time.
What's that?
Back then, I probably only had 2 kids at the time.
Yeah, but I don't know if everyone knows, you know how to get under a bar, right? Competitive lifter. And so you hit this overhead snatch, and there was a good 5 minutes where I was trying to stay composed because I was I feel like a total imposter in here, right? So now I was I've got to make sure that when I demo this thing, he's got to lift. I'm not even sure I can introduce it. He's got to lift.
Yeah.
I'm not I can't get up there with my form. But yeah, so obviously it worked out pretty well. But
yeah, it was really, and I was actually, Coach Kelly was just down here. We were talking about a whole bunch of stuff about the weekend, about where we're at, and just everything. And we were talking about EliteForm and about how it was really at Notre Dame one of our first pieces of, call it what it is, sports science, technology, modalities that we brought in. We really brought it in with conjunction in 2014 with a little bit of a GPS system. It was we had a 10 unit lease that we had on catapults at the time, but we implemented EliteForm, so we just had a little bit of data streaming from the weight room on the field, and then we were starting to gather some stuff off the field with subjective wellness questionnaires and things like that. So it was like my introduction to the sports science side, if you will, even though you can use sports science, with whatever definition you want. But where I really got intrigued from, utilizing technology and how, even an energetic and competitive environment it gives you from that standpoint. So all those things were, it worked out.
So how did you, this is a bit of a sidebar, but since you only had 10 GPS units, how did you implement those? Did you put them on skill guys or?
Yeah, primarily at that time, that first year, I honestly didn't know what it was. We had a guy named Matt Howley, who was kind of, on the Olympic side, and he was from Australia, so of course he knew all about GPS, and he was
10 years ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So he's we got to get this in here. And so, reached out, and I was obviously the sports science liaison, whatever you want to call it. I was the person that was reaching out to companies such as yours, and reached out to Catapult and just said, hey, we'd like to demo your units. And yeah, just kind of put them on guys. I had no idea. I still don't really know what I'm doing. I just kind of make it up as I go. No. But
here's what you need. Here's a stack rank. Here's what you need to know. Don't worry about that.
So we just kind of figured the guys that potentially had the most workload, if you will, from practice, into the game, and went from there. In 2015, we got a few more. We got Coach Wellman along with us that was literally getting his PhD, so we brought in some more units, and then we just snowballed effect from there, and we built, coming to LSU, that's where my vision started. I knew, that was the start of what I wanted to do when it was my time to really run a program and build, essentially a high performance model with a lot of, sports science, utilized within it. Because as you just alluded to, I'm pretty old school. I like to lift weights, and run. And if I just have a field and a barbell without anything else, I'm pretty confident in my ability to get the job done, to have our team physically prepared. But to have the resources that I do here that I had at the last place, it's great. And it's another piece that just, and Coach Kelly utilizes it, which is great. He looks at peak power, for a squat. He looks at, what's our velocity, on certain lifts. And he actually reads that and looks at it and wants to use it for how we're programming and how we're practice modeling and things like that, and how we're, deciding some players that could potentially help us on the field and whatnot.
Well, that's got to be, you've touched on a few things I always find interesting, like kind of number one being Coach Kelly is always intriguing to me, because it does seem like he kind of gets it in that way, which I would think has to make it easier for you in terms of just getting buy-in in terms of what you're doing, right? And obviously he's been dumb way to put it, but bought into you as a person for a long time, right?
Hope so. Yeah, I've been with Coach Kelly. So
I think the facts speak for that.
my background, if you will, is I played for Coach Kelly, or practiced, as I always joke with the guys and the recruits. I was a walk-on, and so I went to Central Michigan University and practiced and played for him in 2004, 2005. His first 2 years at Central Michigan were my last 2 years playing. So I was with the previous staff, but anyways, and then just really fell in love with, strength conditioning really at the time, and just what it was about. I still didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, but I wanted to be a part of it. And Paul Longo, my mentor and my really father figure in this business, he's like, didn't really give me a choice. He's like, "Yep, you're my assistant. Come on." Like, I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And I was, it was just me and him, and we had a year at Central Michigan and Cincinnati for 3 years. And we started at Notre Dame and built some more staff from there, and really, fine-tuned what we were doing. And then it just kept on building until, I'm here now. But yeah, I mean, Coach Kelly he's amazing. I mean, he's truly bought into the holistic aspect of athletic development, and that's, I chose that title, not, I am, known as the head strength coach, the head weights guy, if you will, but, and that's what I do. But also I believe in athletic development, what I mean? So I'm the director of athletic development. I believe I play a huge role in preparing these guys and developing them. And it's not just weights and running, it's nutrition and having Dr. Matt Frakes, my lead dietitian here, and having Bo Lowry and his athletic training staff, and even our equipment staff, and our mental performance staff with Amber Selking, like all these people combined, and Coach Kelly and the position coaches, holistically. And that's driven from the top. That's from Coach Kelly. I know he approaches development such as that, and I'm an integral role to it, I believe. And he has empowered me to have that ability. So, and sports science is a huge part of it, and once again, EliteForm, catapult, force play, NordBord. I mean, go down the list of things that are technologies, but we also utilize, how you guys doing? We utilize this subjective, information from the players each day to really get the beat of the team and know when to push, when to pull. And it's easier to do one when you have the head coach as I do, and also, the buy-in from the players that see that the head coach values everything so much.
So, you mentioned at ND, you guys, like when we met, you were kind of easing into tech. Fair way to put it. Yeah. So you kind of rattled off some of the things you're using now. Can you give people like a more holistic description of all of the things you're combining?
Yeah. So once again, when I was able to get this job, as the director of athletic development, I've had a plan for years, and it was just always in my mind. All right, how are you building the staff? All right, what's it going to look like? Who are you going to have? And I wanted first and foremost just really good people that were great guys, or people and could help in any way, build relationships with the guys. But I also wanted to have a dedicated sports science side to it. So I got to know Scott Kuhn, a couple of years ago through the grapevine, and he was just always one that we just kept in touch. And I never worked with him, never saw him in person. But as soon as I got the job, I called him and I said, "Hey, you ready to go? I need you." And so it's been incredible to have him, as my manager of applied sports science, because he can take all these modalities and put them together to give me informative information, give us and give the staff and give Coach Kelly, because that was my, kind of niche and role at Notre Dame, was I kind of really fell in love with that side of it. But I was, as I tell Scott, I was kind of an OG. I was an old school sports scientist. Like, really had no idea what I was doing. Just put it all together and no. But he's
I may have
incredible.
to call you out for your humble bragging at some point, but okay.
He's incredible. But also, yeah, so we utilize, I really look at it in three different ways. I truly look at how we, streamline data from three different areas. And it's, in the weight room. So in the weight room, what do we do? It's EliteForm, whether it be velocity bar track, barbell tracking, and really we look a lot at, it depends on the exercise or the exercise is, but look at, one, we want to ingrain great technique, but we want to see progression. And what does that mean? That means maybe, be able to, push more peak power, average, power at the time, depending on the exercise, more velocity in certain exercises, higher velocity, if you will, things like that. We utilize force plate analysis through ForceDex, through Vault, which allows us to look at, central nervous system recovery, asymmetries and jump and landing, and just, ways that they jump, not just how high they jump, but how they jump. We utilize NORBOARD, so hamstring, right? So it's whether eccentric, isometric. We do a few different exercises from a NORBOARD standpoint that allows us to look at their risk of soft tissue injuries, GPS units. So then we go off the field, right? On the field. So on the field during practice, we use GPS technology, and we utilize basically the 2D plus. We have 60 units here, and I didn't want more than that. It's kind of, I want to get it on the guys that really need to be cared for and looked at. Not that everybody doesn't, but just the main guys that are gonna be doing a lot of work. So we look at that from a workload standpoint, from a performance standpoint, from a metric like max velocity. It's kind of that fun, sexy metric, but it is very real. You need to keep an eye on it to make sure guys are hitting 90% plus every 3 to 5 days. We mandate that, and they need to sprint every week. It's a big deal in my program throughout the whole year. Is we need to have sprint exposures, and it allows us to not guess. In the off season, we utilize speed gates. So obviously we same thing from a Vault product. We utilize that we can, once again, have that exact timing from laser timing gate systems, and not just be guessing with a stopwatch. Or if one of my kids wakes up the night before and I'm on 3 hours of sleep, my reaction time in the stopwatch isn't great. So I want to make sure to take all that away. And then off the field, which is arguably the most important, and that's whether it be from technology, once again, Aura rings. We utilize Aura rings to look at how the guys are recovering and how they're sleeping, and educate them on it's not like, hey, why did you sleep 4 hours a night? That's it's not a thing where we demean them or talk. It's, hey, how can I help you? Like, I saw that you didn't sleep well. Let's talk about it. What was your routine going to bed? Did you eat right before you go to bed? Did you have your phone on, or were you watching Netflix and fell asleep? What was going on? We can try to educate them, because my foundation and my philosophy and everything is education. I want to teach these guys. I think it means more when you tell them truly why you do things, and you can show them. We gather subjective wellness questionnaires from everybody. So we ask them multiple questions. How many hours did you sleep? What was your sleep efficiency? How fatigued are you? Stress level? All these things. How many meals did you eat yesterday? So it allows us to just gather a lot of data and use it. And there's some days when we're just gathering and there's not too many interventions, but because college kids are college kids. I mean, we're the same way. I'm sure there's days when we would love to have more recovery, or hey, my peak power wasn't where I wanted it or thought it was going to be, and it just happens. But to have, once again, the head coach and my staff and giving the athletic trainers, hey, this is all the information we've got. We can really make an informative decision on anything that needs to be brought to our attention at any point.
And are those tools like we were just talking about Clint Martin and Hootie, and I were talking about this in the last podcast. Are those just a daily part of your process, or do some of those tools kind of constitute a test? Like, how do you balance sort of how you use?
So I know
that's a lot of items, right?
Yeah, I know it's strength coach talk, but I truly we're constantly assessing and reassessing. And so once again, when I built this staff and I got this job, I wanted to make sure that I utilized all these modalities, but in the most non-invasive way for the athletes. I wanted it to be seamless, and a big part of that was having Scott, and he has an assistant, essentially, one of my interns, Jordan Pinella, who does an incredible job of just gathering all the data. He's a Wall Street broker by trade. He's gotten to the strength and conditioning business, if you will, and
that's interesting.
He's a data guy. I mean, he's a numbers guy, and that's what he does. And he's very into what we're doing. But it comes back to the athletes. Like I don't want the athletes to have to think about anything really. Just go. You know what I mean? So there is a lot of it that we use very often, but there's some days when I just say we're not using any of it. But like today, we had a developmental lift this morning for our developmental guys, the guys that don't play as much, mostly young guys, and we didn't use one piece of technology. We could have used EliteForm in a way, and I just said, all right, today we're just gonna go and just gonna train. And there's some days that are like that, because you got to take some days off, if you will. But for the most part, we utilize most of those often. Is the best way to put it.
No, I get it. Yeah, it's always interesting to hear coaches talk about tech because there's so many angles to come at it.
Yeah.
Right. And like you even alluded to earlier, just the floating definition of sports science. Right.
Yeah.
Like if you gather 20 of us in a room, you probably get 20 different definitions.
Yeah. I mean, sports science isn't technology to me. Like sports science
100%.
is making informative decisions and on where you're at as a team and in development. You might not have one computer in the dang room, but you could still utilize sports science, and whether it's just having relationships with the guys and talking to them and utilizing your best and where you're at would be to the team. But we're fortunate, we do have a lot of technology and utilization of different modalities, and we're able to really house them into one athlete management system, which we use SmarterBase, which is incredible. That once again, I got to give Scott a lot of props that he's been able to build. I mean, an incredible piece for us that the coaches, the position coaches, the head coach, the trainer have everything at their disposal at any minute, and the players. So I'm big into that too. I want the players to know where they're at, so they can pull open their app as soon as they're done with the session and see that they hit a PR or didn't. Like, man, I felt fast and I didn't run fast, or I didn't feel that fast and I actually ran fast. That's usually how it works. Or I didn't feel as strong. I hit a PR in my peak power. Things like that. I don't have any training anxiety. I want to make sure that they know exactly where they're at all times, and I think it gives more buy-in.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Like when you mentioned the Aura Ring, the last thing you want to do is throw kids into like a defensive position, where anytime now you start to bring stuff up, you get immediate resistance.
Yeah.
As opposed to an honest conversation, which is probably hard enough.
And listen, there is times when, whatever it may be, Aura Rings or, hey, you got to go jump on the force plate, or we're using EliteForm, and they're like, man, coach, why are we doing this? And you just got to, constantly tell them and educate them and show them why we're doing it. Like, show them progression or show them regression. Like, hey guys, we're lacking in this. We got to step it up. So, success helps. So if we're fortunate enough to win some games and be healthy, then, I think we'll get more buy-in, but the buy-in's been great, to be honest. Like, the players have been great, really good. I mean, they show up, we give them the work and they're pretty good about doing it with pretty great intent.
So how was that, like, culturally, for lack of a better term, like on day one? So, I mean, you were up north, right, for what, 12 years, right? And if you count Cincy as being up in the Midwest.
Yeah.
right? So was there anything that like stuck out to you, whether it's about the athletes or culturally when you showed up and decided to
So
hit it?
great story is this. So I was here in December. It was actually a unique situation where, I mean, December 7th, just early December, Coach Kelly got the job. Basically, I knew I was coming down, built the staff pretty quickly. I was able to get 3 guys in ASAP and get down here in December while we train the guys for the bowl game. So it was a pretty unique situation where me and my staff worked with the previous football staff that was not going to be here, for the most part. And it was great. At first I was like, Coach Kelly said, "All right, you're coaching on Tuesday." I was like, all right, let's go. He's like, "You ready?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm ready. I got it. Whatever we need." And then we didn't have any of these technologies. So once again, just going back to basic principles of training and trying to just get a beat for the team and the relationship building, a little bit of a base foundation in December. And so we were going. It was an interesting time, but it was honestly one of the best things for me, just for them to learn a little bit about me, for me to learn about where the program was at and going. It was great. So the funny story is we get back in January, right after the bowl game, and we start off-season training. And it's a Wednesday, and I wanted to do a whole team. I called it a team run. Let's do a team run. Very beginning, the first day. Let's get everybody out and just we're going to start this thing together, and we're going to go from there. And I went outside. Like it, I like going outside, no matter what it's like. And I am not a tough guy by any means, but I do like to feel cold. I like to feel a little bit cold rather than a little bit warmer. I'm in the wrong spot of the country for that. But so I was a normal t-shirt. I mean, you probably saw me in the winter. I always had shorts on. I always have shorts and a t-shirt on. It's just what we do. Even when I'm outside in the snow, 2 feet of snow in South Bend or, down here. But anyways, it was 6 a.m. It was dark, and it was about 33 degrees maybe. It was right, and it was in the low 30s. So it does get cold here in the evenings in the quote unquote winter that I experienced last year. And the guys are just like, "Coach, are you serious? Like, we don't do this. We don't go out." Like all of them were like, "We don't go outside, especially in January." He's like, we ain't doing it. "Coach, you crazy. You crazy." And I was like, "Guys, are you serious? Come on. It's not cold at all." And I said, "Don't worry. You'll get me back when we're out in July and we're outside and I'm, dying of heat exhaustion." So, they got me back, but it was good. It was a good little introduction for them to know that, hey, this little guy in front of him likes to be a little bit cold and doesn't really care about the elements. And for what you guys deem as winter is kind of not what I've witnessed before.
So now that you've been there a bit, though, how often are you going outside?
I go outside as much as I can, and that's driven into me. Yeah, that's driven into me really by Coach Kelly. So when we were at Cincinnati, we didn't have an indoor. We didn't have a practice field even. We had to practice and train and do everything on our game field, which was in the middle of campus, and it was wide open. There was no. I mean, my job during practices was just to kind of walk around and be the security guard around the stands, because people would just start running down the stands, and the students would run on the field. It was crazy, but it literally
Someone's going to run some stairs while you're practicing.
Seriously, there'd be dudes like stretching on the turf, and I'd be like, "Hey man, we got 7-on-7 over here, man. You got to get out of here." And it was pretty wild. But what coach is just in his mindset always is, we're going to go where we play, and it's typically outside, and we're going to need to be in the elements. So in the summer, we were outside a lot, as many days as we could. Now it rains here almost every day. That's another thing I witnessed during the summer. It was like clockwork every day. But unless there was an absolute safety issue, given to us that we couldn't go outside, we were outside every time. And grass, turf, we kind of switched it up, but I tried to be on the grass as much as I could. From a pounding standpoint, what we're doing, and I like to be outdoors.
Nothing wrong with that. Well, I'm signing up for your newsletter. That's for sure on that one. So have there, obviously you had it in mind, I think you even alluded to this earlier, about eventually having that head role, right? Have there been any surprises for you though, once you've actually kind of gotten this position?
I don't know about surprises, but there's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work that, and obviously just the work itself of a new program. And like you said, just really turning over, what Coach Kelly wants to instill in myself with our program. And it's constant, and it's a lot of work. I'm fortunate to have Brian Kelly as my boss, if you will, and know that he's going to drive me to do hopefully great things and the right thing at all times. And I have a staff that fulfills the things that I can't do or that I'm not good at. And I'm very fortunate that and hopefully they continue this, is that when I'm lacking in something, they pick it up and they're 2 steps ahead of me, because there's just a lot. I mean, I don't know if there's been any surprises. I've been very fortunate to be in some programs. Obviously, I've only been with Coach Kelly as a head coach, so I think that helps me in this situation, because I literally know what we're going to do, like almost before he does it. You know what I mean? I've done this before. I know the routines and the habits and how we're going to implement anything, from practice to weight training to team building and all these things. But it's just constant. It's a lot, and it's just a lot of work. But I knew that, and it's what I love, because I love seeing the success that we have, whether it be players just enjoying coming in and understanding why they need to come into the facility, whether it's with me or in the cafeteria or upstairs. You want to have the players appreciate what we do. They're not, I might not have all the guys love squatting, right? But they need to know why I'm doing it, and they need to appreciate that, and then they need to give me the intent and the work on their end. So there's definitely a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of work to do. That'll never stop.
On the flip, is there anything that you've ended up delegating where you've kind of had to do I really love touching that piece of it, but now I've got to kind of accept I'm in a different role? And
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is honestly like stepping away from running all of the sports science side. I mean, I did all of that, and I was boots on the ground, if you will, with every single thing at the last place at Notre Dame. And I am to an extent here, but I can't, and I have people, I have Scott and my staff to make sure everything's rolling. You know what I mean? Whether it be, it's something simple. Like I was very big, and I still do it, as much as I can, but like weighing guys in whenever we weigh guys in, it was a great way for me to just say, hey, and know where the guys were at. And, you know what I mean? I don't do that as much. Point. Yeah. And I don't do that as much anymore. I used to just do it all as many times as I could. Because I just felt like it was great to see them. And I still, so I'll just be walking around while they're weighing in. It's just another way that I hopefully gather, similar, feedback from the guys, but just in a different way. So, I'm the guy in front of the guys most of the time, and I do try to let my staff and the players themselves, have some autonomy and get in front of the team and say some words, because I knew, in my roles as, an assistant, if you will, and a co-director and all those things, that when I did have times to do that, it was very valuable, just to, to help me to where I'm at today. I'm not a polished product, but, I've experienced a lot and success, and some things that did, and a lot of things that didn't work, a lot of things that I was able to, kind of, get guided and develop on my side, that I'm hopefully doing for my staff, but also, to the players, providing them with as many tools for them to be successful.
No, it makes sense. And it's funny that you say that, because given the guys that you've worked with and for, like I've had side conversations with them where they've echoed the same thing, right? So just in the same way, I think you've given Scott like props, like what, 5 or 6 times already? Like we'll have to get him on here for a separate conversation. Sure. But like I remember Coach Bayless being thankful for like you, Rob, et cetera. Coach Longo, same thing. And so you can just, everyone talks about coaching trees, but you can see the ones where it really is about people, right? And sort of allowing people to elevate themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just kind of cool to hear.
And I live that way.
Hard really, comment, but it's cool to hear it kind of.
No, that's what I believe in. This is so cheesy, but I have this wooden what is it? It's a kombucha little handle that Jack Marucci, one of our he owns Marucci Bats. Anyways, he does wood carving and woodwork, and he etched my face and a quote that says it starts with caring, because I think I said that at the beginning of one of the first sessions, and it's it does. Like, that's, I truly believe that you have to care for each other. And listen, I want all of us to succeed, but it takes all of us, you know what I mean? And it's call it family, whatever. Obviously, I have a pretty huge family myself, so I believe in it, and in what we can provide for each other.
Yeah, and that's a question I have. How in the world do you move that size of a crew from South Bend
Yeah.
to Baton Rouge? How'd that go for you?
I mean,
I got to tell you, that was like the
my,
first thing I thought of. It was like,
my,
it's hard enough on coaches because they have to go like that. But like, it's not
my,
like you're a bachelor.
my wife is a true saint. I mean, I have 6 children. I have 5 daughters and a son: Blake, Parker, Beckett, Oakley, Declan, Berkeley, and a wife, Katie. And they're everything, everything. And they understand that this is what I do, and they love Coach Kelly, and they love a couple other coaches that they've been around. And it was not easy. I mean, they stayed until the end of the school year. My wife's a special ed teacher, and she stayed and taught till the end of the school year. And my kids, obviously stayed in school until. So I was here, batching it, I guess, if you will, from January to June. And it was good because it would have been tough if they were here. I had to taking over and implementing what we did. It was long hours, and it still is, but it was pretty demanding at the time, and it was hard. It's really hard. And I was fortunate, like you said, I was at Notre Dame for 12 years, for 12 seasons, and I had every kid in the same hospital, baptized at the same church. My wife had the same job throughout the whole time, and it was all we knew, and it was all they know. And it was tough to come down to the South. I never would have thought that, but also just a new environment. But it's been very a great transition. Tough, but great. I mean, the people here are unbelievable. I mean, and the staff that we have here, it just feels really good to know that any second, they can come in, they can run around, and it's very inviting for everybody. And that, once again, it comes from Coach Kelly's, leadership of how he runs the program. And, it was tough. Let's just say that. It was not easy for my wife to do everything. And
I'm sure.
I mean, that's it.
Yeah, it's like you'll say, as we all would, right? Like, you've been with Coach Kelly that long, but really, like, so is Katie, right? So the kids, like that kind of thing. So
I mean,
good to hear everybody's doing well though. So yeah, it was like, how many Mayflower vans is that going to take to get that crew down?
We still have a truck coming. I swear to God.
Do you really?
We still have some stuff that is up in South Bend that is coming down with the next load. So we're almost in. I mean, we won't be moved. I mean, we don't have time to move in. We got stuff everywhere.
It's a process, right?
Oh my gosh, something like that. There's just a lot of stuff.
So, obviously, everyone wants to win games, right? So, how do you, like, personally want to take your own progression, like, as you continue to grow at LSU?
Yeah, really. I mean, it's about how the players, how I can build relationships with the guys. And I honestly, I want them to appreciate what we as a program do for them. And you can just, it's kind of hard to measure, if you will, but you can really feel it. Like, our mission is to graduate champions. And that's literally what we believe in. We want them to do, great things and have success both off the field and on the field. So as we do that, as guys graduate and have success on the field, and if that involves getting to the NFL, that's what I want to build here, and I want to build sustained success. And I think a big part of it is through the weight room, and through our training and development, and I think if we can have buy-in and have true relationships with the guys where they know what to do before I even know to do it. And we're going to get there, and we're going to have leadership and all those things. I mean, the progression will be, measured by the success, but also measured by just, the players coming back, and saying hey to us and bringing their kids and their families. Like that's what my vision's always been. I wanted to have, deep enough relationships. Like I still have guys obviously from years ago at Notre Dame and Cincinnati even that I talk to and text and call with at times, that it's just great to hear them. And that's, for me personally, if I could have any, piece of success or progression that I can see, it's just having sustained relationships with the guys, throughout the years. Because I always tell them, like, hey, I don't know much about the strength and conditioning stuff, and I probably don't know much about being a dad, but I am a dad and I have a lot of kids. So if you ever need help, like, let me know. And so, things like that.
Yeah, I will often joke that, I can go ahead and make the mistakes and tell everybody else, like, how I crashed into the sides, and they can then not do that, right?
Yeah.
For sure. How about, tech angle, of course, like, have you, Scott, and the staff sort of discussed anything in terms of like information that you might want to see from technology that it's not providing you today? Doesn't have to be EF, by the way. I'm not looking for an ad. So
we're always thinking. I mean, that's the great thing about my staff and Coach Kelly too. Like, literally, we'll sit there and conversate about how we can, gather more detailed information or get the guy. Like, we want to always start with the question. Like, what are we trying to answer? I mean, we always bring up, like, what are some things that we might have a question about across the board, in our program or in our development or whatever, and how can we, streamline that, or how can we more efficiently gather that info. And so it's a constant discussion. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have a list of, whether it be modalities or just ways we can do things a little bit differently. And, I don't want to give away some of the things.
I was going to say, that's kind of a secret sauce question, right? Like,
I have a couple things that are already out there, but and it's simple things, but it's just a simpler way that I feel like it was to give information and gather information from some people. And it's just constantly, thinking. And listen, I don't have to be the one. It can be one of my interns. He might bring it up. And I want to have these open conversations with everybody that, I can learn from anybody, and and the players too. Like, hey guys, how can we do this better? All right. Maybe we're not doing this the right way. We're trying to gather this information, but I want this information. How can I get it? And I'll ask the players, and they'll give me feedback. And that's where, once again, to go back to, kind of what you asked, like, I want that. I want the players to be able to honestly and truthfully have constant, and consistent communication within each other, so that we can, provide the best environment for them to develop into successful people, and yeah, we have, we're cooking up some ideas, and whether it be just within the sports science or technology side, but also just, my biggest thing is how can we non-invasively, provide, development for the athletes and gather as much information as we can, as often as we can, and utilize it. That's
tactfully handled, my friend. Tactfully handled. That was excellent.
Yeah. I was about to give it away. You almost got me. I was about to give it away.
It wasn't meant as a gotcha question, but maybe a moment after I asked, it's like, man, it shows I'm not a professional podcast host. But no, like, in all seriousness, like, you alluded to this earlier, like, people will associate the data that they want to collect and what they want to know sometimes too closely with the tool that's providing it. And those definitely are not necessarily the same thing, right? Like, a tool set can be a pain in the ass to use to eventually get you what you want, right? Or it can be efficient.
Yeah.
You're still trying to get to X.
There's trial and error. I'm not going to lie. There's some times when that's where, 2014, let's demo an EliteForm. Let's see what it does, and let's see if it fits. It might conceptually be the best thing ever, and it sounds great and actually is a great product, but the way that's programmed, we might be running our deal, it might not fit and with the player structure that we have, but that's why, I'm open for anything in any way. I'm not stuck in, I have to power clean, or I have to squat, or I have to, whatever it may be, an exercise or even a way to do things. I want the best for the guys, for the athletes, and for my players. And, I just want to provide whatever way that may be to gather and give information and delineate development. That's what I want.
Makes sense. For sure. Yeah. There's a lot of ways you can take that conversation, but at the end of the day, it's still, is it getting you and your guys what you need, right? As efficiently as possible. So, there's trial and error on our side a lot with that one too. So.
Yeah, I think you have to, and that's how you progress. You got to make mistakes, and unfortunately, you got to live through some things that you probably didn't want to at the time. But
100%.
if you can be open-minded and just know that there's going to be some bumps in the road, then you can move forward with things.
Well, and like you alluded to, like not every program needs us. Is ready for a particular product, right? Or piece of data. Like I've got, we have mutual friends, right? And we have a great relationship with them. And like, they'll just be like, yeah, our program's just not ready for that.
Right.
And in the same way you describe that developmental lift, that's all their lifts.
Right.
So like, I just got to get these guys strong at first.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's been too long. We got to get together face to face. I know I made the comment to be like catching up in a bar. It's probably some happy mix, but we should catch up in a bar at some point.
I would enjoy that. We got to get you over to Death Valley here and into a night game at some point and see if we can get you into a little bit of great college football environment.
I'll go on that hot, muggy run with you. I'll have to catch up after a while, but
it's about 90 today. It's not too bad.
Well, like in South Bend, it gets a little humid, right?
Yeah, for like a week.
We'll all think we know, and then you go down there, and it's like it's I'm gonna grow some gills because it's that bad. So.
Yeah.
All right, brother. I will let you go. Thanks again for coming on. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Skip.
All right. Talk soon.
Talk to you soon.